And Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned in to Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's Friday, 16th of June, and the time has now just gone 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mother's Planet, a show where there is always something to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I'm your host, Neelam, and joining me on the show this morning is my guest, Shana. Now, I shall get Shana to formally introduce herself to the listeners shortly, but first, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. How are you?
I'm well. A little nervous because this is the first time in 3 years, listeners, I am back in the studio. And excuse me if there is any tech issues. I've got Brother Tariq coming just to check to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. So it feels quite nice to be back in the studio, actually. I feel like I'm actually doing something.
Yes.
So that's
well,
quite
I think
nice.
you're always doing something. I think we need to stop being so cruel to ourselves about productivity, actually, because as mothers, we're always doing something.
Yes.
But working from home is working.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my kind of work I do from within my home. I don't go to the office very much. And, people from the outside must think, oh, she just sits on her laptop all day. Bless her. She doesn't really do very much. But actually, no, we are always busy and always doing things. And if you're, hosting from your lounge, you're still working. So yeah, we have to be less cruel to ourselves, I think.
I agree with you. And what a nice way to start the morning, actually, Shana. Thank you for that, because yes, that's a good reminder. And especially in my house when silence is really difficult.
Yes, yes, I understand completely.
So yes, that's been interesting to try and get the kids to be quiet when I actually need to do stuff. But Shana, how have you found the weather?
I mean, I'm really enjoying the weather. I can't lie. I mean, I think it's difficult with children because my youngest, she's just turned 1. Obviously, she needs a lot of carrying and things still. And, when they're stuck to you and you're sticky, easily I get kind of like overstimulated and overwhelmed in the heat. Yes. But I'm much happier in the heat than I am in the winter. I can't stand the winter. When the sun comes out, I automatically feel like that boost that, when you get up in the morning. You're waking up to dark and you're coming home to dark. It's so miserable, isn't it? So I know, alhamdulillah, I'm enjoying it. What about you?
Yes, no, likewise. Yes, I do get a bit hot and bothered, but actually I much prefer the sun than I do the winter. And for me, it's been like washing.
Yes, washing is a big one. Although, obviously, I don't know. I know every household is different. I'm like to think of myself as organized, but I don't know how true that is. So I love the fact that I can, potentially wash and dry 3 loads of laundry in a day, but then I've got to put all that away and I really don't want to. So I think it comes with its benefits, but also when you've got that big stack waiting for you at the end of a day, which ordinarily would be 1 load, it can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah, so I've actually learnt the hard way, Shana, on that. So what I do now is I wash them, and I refuse to iron now unless it really desperately needs ironing. And so I will fold and I will just leave on the desks of each of their rooms.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's your job to put them away because you didn't have any issue filling the wash basket.
Well, yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely,
but mine are that much older, so it's very difficult.
My eldest definitely could do it. I don't know how willingly. But no, I have tried to give her the responsibility of doing it. My eldest is actually autistic, so she really struggles with organization. So it's actually good to give it to her and have her sift through that pile and put things where they need to go. She doesn't like doing it, and I think she does find it a challenge more so than perhaps a child who's neurotypical. But it is good to kind of expose her to the necessary things of I hate being organized. I wish I could just chill and do things, at my own pace, but it's just not real life. So it's good to give them those little bits of responsibility, I think. And it makes your life easier, like when you've got 3, 4, 5 children, there's not enough hours in the day to be putting away everybody's clothes. I still do my husband's though, so shout out to him.
I know, because if we don't, it would just go into a pile. So you have
10 business days, it will sit there.
Yes, I've actually done that. So I actually put it all into a bag and just left it there. And I said, I don't know where to put this. And I'm just going to let you. And he left it there.
Yeah. See, my husband's got so many clothes, right? Like, mashallah, he really likes his clothing and things. But actually, I feel like we all do the same thing. We all have the same kind of outfits in rotation. We don't actually use all that we have in our wardrobe. It's quite wasteful. But he definitely has twice as many clothes as me. And so like, it's not even a case of knowing where it goes. It's like, where do I squeeze these things? Because I've learned to be a bit more kind of, is the word frugal. You know, I just get rid of things and keep what I actually wear and need, because I think especially after you've had children, you obviously your body shape changes, your needs change, especially if you're nursing and things like that. And I was holding on to things that quite frankly are never going to fit me ever again. And not because of lack of will. You know, I do go, I exercise, you know, I do try and take care of myself, but just you can't physically change those things once that they've happened. So as hard as that is sometimes to accept, so I've kind of just learned to, you know what, this doesn't fit me, so and it's never going to, and that's fine. So some other sister somewhere, bismillah, can have this dress, but it doesn't need to take up space in my wardrobe and in my head, you know, because it's a mental thing as well. And we've got these things, these skeletons, if you like, in our closet that we're just kind of waiting to I don't know, get back into, or so I think it's actually quite mentally freeing getting rid of those things.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that the summer brings with it, where I'm decluttering and being realistic with myself. But yeah, like you said, I do like to in the winter I'm a bit of a I just sit down and I just let myself drink and eat and just, you know, I
it's human nature.
That's it. I hibernate in the winter. And in the summer, I'm like, whoa, where did all this extra layers come from? So I am trying my best to try and get a bit fit and healthy. And also we have a family wedding coming up. So that's always a motivation.
I mean, I actually, interestingly, because my husband works in events, so the summer period is always really, really busy, weddings, etc. So actually my time to go and exercise is massively reduced, obviously, because he looks after the children so that I can go. So I actually tend to be better at looking after myself over the winter than in the summer. Whereas the summer I'm having mocktails in the garden and you know, things full of sugar, because you kind of crave those things in the summer because you're thirsty. And that's actually when I tend to put more weight on, actually, interestingly. I'm kind of in reverse for most people. But I think it's just the case of that's just when I have more time. It's over the winter, whereas summer, both me and my husband, our work is packed. So there's not much time for kind of self-care, if you like.
No, I find that in the summer it hits me more because you're delayering a little bit, so you've got to expose yourself a little bit. So I'm like, oh, I can't wear that dress, I can't wear that outfit. So I'm a bit more conscious over the summer. So we've also had GCSEs. Now I've banged on about this for the last few weeks on my shows because I've got my eldest who's been sitting her GCSEs, and it's just been it's like history for me because I keep having dreams of sitting exams and getting results. So I think I'm more under pressure than she is. So she's like, Mum, chill. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. But so over the last 2 weeks, I've been quite good because I've focused on myself and how I can get myself healthy and fitter. So I've not had those dreams because I'm just so tired I fall asleep.
So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. GCSE trauma comes to relive itself in your mind.
No, it's been horrible. But alhamdulillah, today's her last exam. So
good luck, inshallah.
She went for it this morning, and she's soldiered through them, and so I dropped her off for her last official exam, and then she's free. And she's just said to me for next week, because I'm planning next week for her, we'll go shopping, we'll redo your wardrobe, we'll get you things. And she's like, Mum, can I just sleep for a week?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think as parents, we're always trying to make life easier for our children in whatever capacity, and we always want them to feel like we're proud of them and we acknowledge their efforts. Because I think there wasn't so much I don't not to say that my parents didn't do it, but there wasn't so much emphasis as a society that it needs to be done. It's almost like children, what problems do children have, you know, what burdens or stresses do they have? But actually I think now massively as a society we're starting to acknowledge, you know, this is really stressful for kids, and the pressure they feel that they put on themselves that is externally placed on them to do well and to perform well. You know, they're not circus performers, they are still children. And you know, with all the will in the world, sometimes things just don't go your way. But actually to feel like, you know, your parents are behind you is a really precious and wonderful thing, and you should be really proud as parents that you're facilitating that for them. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when we try and do these things like, yeah, I'm going to spoil them, I'm going to make them feel really like, you know, empowered, and that we acknowledge their efforts, and she's just like, I'm going to go to bed, leave me alone.
Yes. I just want to sleep, mum.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I know. So it's but I agree with you, because I think I say to them all the time that we grew up in a time where we had books and we didn't have internet, we didn't have the phone. So when we didn't understand something, it was referring to the good old encyclopedia and the dictionary and things like that. Whereas now, you know, they've got chat GPT, whatever it is, you know, all this AI stuff. They've got so much, but actually I think as a result the expectations are higher. So kids are actually, because they've got so much available to them, the boundaries have raised, the bars raised, and actually now they're saying that we expect the kids to do so much more better because they have access to all these things. So I think that's where the pressure comes in.
Definitely. But I think also an important point to highlight is that actually some children have access to those things, and actually lots of children don't. Like if we look at the poverty levels, statistics just here in Newton, we're at basically 50% of kids are living in poverty. So lots of those children, they don't necessarily have access to a laptop or a phone even, or Wi-Fi even, to, you know, access any kind of information. And if they do, it's, you know, shared between 5 siblings. And obviously those statistics are likely to go up, because now we know with everything being so expensive, people are having to cut back. And you know, if it's a choice between having Wi-Fi and having food in the cupboards, you know, most parents are going to make, you know, the latter choice. So I think, you know, as a society, we also need to take that into consideration. You know, it's not just our children. Yes, the ones, alhamdulillah, are lucky enough to have access to all that information, still shouldn't have the pressure of having to perform to being the same as a computer, actually, because they're human beings with thoughts and feelings and potentially problems in their life that they're dealing with. But also there are lots of children that cannot access that information. And so how is it fair? You know, how are we going to level that playing field in which, you know, children are all equal, no matter where they're coming from? I really feel like we should go back to books and borrowing from the library and things. Because also it encourages that almost the effort. You know, if it's at the end of your phone, well, you know, it's not very much effort to find information if you really want to find it. Whereas when you have to physically go out, that kind of starts to separate those young people that really have got that drive and those that really can't be bothered. So actually those children, even if they're not academically as able, are going to be, you know, set apart from those children that maybe just can't be bothered. And I think that's something really important as parents that we need to do with our children. I'm sure most people are, is that actually it's not about what you achieve, it's not the grade, it's the effort that we want to see from you, because it's that effort that will get you through life. You know, I openly say to everybody, I sailed through all of my exams with very little effort. But then real life comes and I realised I haven't built any of those systems, revision, you know, giving myself adequate time, how to prepare for exams, how to allocate time. I had none of those skills. So actually my grades didn't really mean very much because I was starting from the beginning. So actually, if our kids have those systems and they're developing those systems and they're not getting the highest grades, that's great, because, you know, those systems are going to make them successful in their careers in the future, inshallah. So as parents, that's really, like, you know, personally and you know, professionally, that is my push, is what are your systems?
Yes, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. And if my husband's tuned in this morning, he'd be saying, Shana, I totally agree with you, because this is something that he's really promoted to the children, that it's not about being able to answer the question and know the facts and getting everything. It's understanding. So especially when it comes to subjects like maths and you know, your sciences, where it's a lot of it is application, but it's actually understanding. So if you totally understood the topic really well, you could be asked that question in several different ways and understand how to actually tackle that answer. So he's really big on, don't revise just so that you can answer questions, revise so that you actually are building on it. So he'll go from the basics, say to them, right, okay, he has this pyramid diagram system that he says, right, let's draw it all out. And actually, alhamdulillah, I have to give hats off to him. It's actually worked. So the children have actually found it much more, oh, actually, I didn't realize this could link into that, and I could do. So it's actually broke it down quite well to them.
And I often do things when I was working in education, and also like with other children that I mentor in my role, we often do things like, okay, talk to me about it. I'm not going to ask you questions. You're just going to tell me about it. Because actually, if you're an expert, which you're expected to be in the exam context, you could be able to just tell me about it. You should be able to tell me how it works.
Yes.
And I should believe you.
Yes.
I don't need to check. You just tell me. And actually, that's when they start to realize the holes in the information they have. Oh, actually, I don't really know much about that. I need to find out some more about that. So then I can tell you, complete authenticity, this is the subject and this is what I know about it. And I find that's really helpful as well, because again, it comes back to that understanding of, you know, it's not answering quick fire questions. It's, I know this.
Yes.
And that's really, really important as well. But obviously that can be difficult, particularly I think as parents, we kind of feel like imposters, don't we?
Yes.
I don't know anything about this. And so we kind of sometimes can have the habit of taking a back seat, excuse me, and saying, oh, I don't really know anything about this. Ask your brother, ask this person, ask your uncle, ask your auntie. But actually, you know, as a parent, you know so much more than you think you do. And actually, it's really not important that you know it. Yes. It's just, you know, that you're prepared to listen. And I mean, even like my eldest, she's 12. I've learned so much from her when she comes home from school and tells me things that I didn't know. But whether I was taught it or I wasn't, or whether I wasn't listening, perhaps not. Yeah. But, you know, our kids are so clever, all of them, regardless of academic ability. They know so much, and they can teach us things as well. So it's just being a listening ear, really, and helping to facilitate whatever they need in terms of like to be able to retain that information, essentially.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because my elder two were talking over the dinner table about a system for maths that they used, and they called it something. And I said, oh, is that like a platform where you can like share? And they looked at me and they said, no, Mum, it's like BidMaths. I think it's called BidMaths now.
Okay.
It was BODMaths in my days, but it's a system that you use for maths where you have to try and get the equation so that you can get X out of it. And I said, okay, you've thrown me now. I really don't. When you put X into anything, I'm going to be confused.
That's a letter. That shouldn't be in maths.
Yeah, that's not maths. Maths is numbers. So yeah, but we're, you know, so yeah, and they actually took me through. I mean, a lot of it went over my head, but I was so proud of them because I thought, wow, they actually, you know, so it's quite good that I don't understand sometimes, because I think it's for them, it's like, okay, let's teach someone from scratch. So,
and if you can teach it, then you know it, right?
Yeah,
so yeah, that's what I mean. Sometimes even if you know, just play dumb a little bit. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I keep saying I'm acting. I really don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
half the time I don't. So I'm not going to let them in on that one.
No, don't.
No. So listeners, we are actually live on air, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas through the airwaves at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect through TuneIn, and you can also see us hopefully live on the Facebook page where you can and leave any comments, and you must like the show as well. So do that. I am taking in WhatsApp and text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. Now, in today's show, we do actually have a topic that we will be talking about. And there's been lots of conversation in my shows around gardening. I love gardening. And I can't say, though, I'm green-fingered, Shana. I really wish I was. But there is a project that's out there for the community to get involved. And I made a slight error this morning where I actually backed it up by saying it's run or supported by Luton Council. So I'll get Shana to correct me on that shortly as well. But firstly, Shana, can I get you to introduce yourself to the listeners?
Okay, so I'm sure lots of you have heard me on various shows over the years. So you're all quite sick of me, I'm sure. So I am Shana Iqbal. Previously Shana Kiley, if you saw me in my pre-marriage days, but I am the development officer for the Luton in Bloom project, which is a new initiative here in Luton. It is supported by Luton Council, also supported by Inspire FM, but primarily run and supported by Community Interest Luton, where I work. We're also supported by various other organisations such as Luton Rising and the Peace Garden Initiative, Luton Council of Faiths. So we've got quite a lot of community support from various organisations. But essentially, we are a new initiative which is encouraging the green-fingered and novices alike to get involved in gardening, whether that's joining in our competition. So we've got a community competition, or whether that's, you know, coming along to some of our workshops, which I will talk about a little later, or, you know, just getting involved with some of the content that we're sharing, and, you know, coming out to things and meeting new people.
Yeah, I like the name in the Bloom. Is it
in Bloom?
In Bloom, yeah. That's it. So the hope is, I mean, I'd like to know how, you know, what was the concept around. Firstly, actually, Shana, before I begin any of this, How green fingered are you?
Well, it's difficult to say, really. I wouldn't say that I am an expert by any stretch, nor would I say I'm a novice. I mean, my grandparents, they run allotments. We're from quite a rich agricultural background. I'm Polish and Irish, mum's and dad's side. So we're very into the growing our own produce and things. Anyone who's ever seen my dad's garden and my mum's garden, actually, for that fact, is just in awe of them. We've always grown up with our parents gardening, and the garden was an extension of the house. And even now, I mean, all but two of us are all adults. We all live in our own houses, and when we go to my dad's house, we sit out in the garden, rain or shine. He's built a canopy. If it's raining, we're sitting outside. We're very outdoorsy people, I'd say. So I don't know how green fingered I am, but definitely no. I think I know a lot more than I think I know. Whether or not I implement that, I think, like a lot of people, it's time. But I am committed now, because obviously this project has inspired me. It's inspired lots of people. Just thinking about, how beneficial this is for communities to be in the outdoors or to take care of their outdoor space. Well, no matter what that space is, whether it's a garden, whether it's a balcony, whether you just got some things growing on your windowsill, not everyone has an outdoor space, but actually to just reconnect with growing things and nature is so important, and it has so many benefits. So not just mental health, physical health as well, and I think lots of people, they feel really lonely. Post-pandemic, now we've got the cost of living crisis. Everyone is just working, and there doesn't feel like there's very little time for anything else. And just seeing your neighbours over the garden fence, or having something to talk about when someone walks past your hanging baskets, or it starts to build networks and communities for people that are isolated. And I think that was one of the main things for me as a practitioner when the founder Sujal came to talk to me on this project, is that it's about connecting people. It's more than actually about gardening. And I think it's a really good way, and a really positive way of engaging with people from all different, demographics, no matter what your culture, age, there's something that everyone can get involved with.
And I think you're right, especially in the lockdown, because our gardens did become our second homes. We were meeting outside, so rather than running around with the vac and making sure the house was presentable, we were running around with the lawnmower and making sure the grass was cut, and there were flowers and it was presentable. So whoever did come wasn't sitting in a jungle, was actually sitting in a nice garden, and it was quite nice, because wherever you did go, everyone was sort of showing off their garden and saying, oh did you like I planted this, or I did this, or I made that, and it was quite nice, because I got a lot of ideas, and I have to admit, I'm not green fingered, but I haven't killed anything yet. All my plants
you're doing
survived.
well then.
This is what I think. I think I can't say I'm an expert, but I haven't killed anything yet. My husband did buy some lavenders, and I thought, oh gosh, I've got to plant these in the garden, but my neighbour reassured me, and they're very good at gardening, that lavender need very little attention.
They're quite hardy, aren't they?
They are very hard wearing, and they will just bloom. And so and they're French lavenders as well, so I'm told that French lavenders just grow in abundance. So I'm like, okay, this is great.
That's what I needed to hear
for it. So I can say that I actually let this grow and sprout. So so I'm looking forward to that. So I have done all my flowers and my seeds, and some vegetables I've done. I can't take credit for it, because my eldest daughter, in the lockdown, when things were becoming scarcely available, we were like, right, we've got to grow our own. And that's when we started to actually really get interested in growing our own vegetables. And it was really nice, because when we grow our own strawberries, the kids were like, wow. And I'm like, wow, they've never loved a strawberry as much as this one. And we had like 2 or 3 on a plate, which would cut in pieces, and we were sharing. But the kids were so amazed by the fact that they'd watered it and they'd grown it. And the same with lettuce. My son absolutely hates salad, but when he saw that he actually grew this totally himself, he was like, can I have lettuce in this? Can I have lettuce in that? And I was like, oh,
how
wow.
amazing. But that is ultimately how it should be. Because obviously everything is mostly, on the most part, readily available. We just walk into the shop, we pick it up. There's no consciousness of where that's come from, or the hard work that's gone into creating, growing that thing, or no matter what it may be. and so then we're quite wasteful as well. And so, excuse me, you know, when you've got things that you've grown, they're not going in the bin.
Yeah.
You know, you're making sure you use them because you know the time and effort that it took.
Absolutely.
So it does obviously promote you to be less wasteful as well, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Shana, you won't believe this, but we've actually entered the first half of the show. And so we are going to go to a break. So I'm conscious about not asking you a question because I've got about 30 seconds till we go over to the break. So I'm just going to recap to the listeners what we've been talking about this morning. And it has been about the topic, not only about children and nurturing them well, but we are talking about In Bloom, which is a community. I do believe it's a competition, so I'll get Shana to shed more light on that later on after the break. But we have been talking about In Bloom, which is a community event that's going to be running in Luton. So if you want to know more about it, stay tuned in. But for now, I don't believe anyone's got hot drinks. It's probably cold drinks. Go refill your cold drinks and join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
इंस्पायर फैलाता है अमन और सलामती का पैगाम। यह है आपका अपना रेडियो स्टेशन इंस्पायर एफएम।
Did you see that guy on TV?
What, that no comment guy?
Yeah, he was sick. What was his name?
I think it was Atiq Malik.
Yeah, Atiq Malik of Liberty Law Solicitors. Atiq Malik heads up the criminal law team at Liberty Law Solicitors, specialising in everything from serious crime down to road traffic offences.
To find out more or for a free telephone consultation, call 01582 459955.
Liberty Law, there when you need us most.
Inspire FM, this headline sponsor, Luton Rising, present Inspire Eid, the UK's most affordable Eid celebration event at Luton Park on Wednesday 28th and Thursday 29th of June. Inspire FM would like to thank its supporters, Mary Seacole, Energized Holiday Camps, Liberty Law Solicitors, Tops Pizza, Chiltern Learning Trust, AA Carpets and Furniture, Venue Central, The Mall Luton, Bath and Tile Superstore, Luton Sixth Form College, Bath and Group, MB Solicitors and Mayday Vehicle Rental. Bring your family and friends to Lucy Park this Eid al-Adha and enjoy the biggest fun fair at the lowest prices. Find out more at inspireeid.org.
Preparing for exam season with Inspire FM. Create flashcards with key terms and key concepts. Make a playlist of revision for you to watch online. For more exam tips, stay tuned to Inspire FM 105.1 FM.
Landlords, let us take away the hassle of letting your property. Our comprehensive services include tenant vetting, rent collection and service charges, maintenance and repairs. Ideal Properties has 2 branches and have been established over 20 years and have gained a wealth of knowledge and experience.
If you are thinking of selling or letting your property, then speak to a member of our knowledgeable team about a free, no-obligation market appraisal.
We can also offer guaranteed rental income.
Contact us on either Luton 721110 or 696050. Ideal Properties. Service with a smile, whatever your needs.
Preparing for Hajj with Inspire FM. You should talk to someone who has already performed Hajj, as it's an excellent way to learn more about the entire process. As you hear about this spiritual experience, you'll feel more prepared to go to Hajj. For more Hajj tips, stay tuned to Inspire FM.
Since its launch, tens of thousands of Muslims have given zakat through NZF. We're the only platform with a national reach enabling you to give zakat to those who need it here. Across the country, Muslims are in need. Your zakat has the potential to change their lives. Just go to www.nzf.org.uk to calculate your zakat, choose how it's used, and keep updated about the impact it's having on the lives of Muslims where you live. NZF. Give zakat here.
Oh, Hillary, I was going to use newspaper display advertising.
But
it costs £10 per inch.
And that's too expensive?
Oh, indeed it is. I want to sell a 10-foot ladder.
Oh, Roger, invest in an ear-catching advertising campaign on this radio station instead. It's a great way to tell people about your products and service.
For details, click on inspirefm.org, then advertise. From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. You are tuned into Inspire FM 105.1 FM. It's Mother's Planet and it's Friday, 16th of June, and the time has now just gone 10:30. I've ruined my headphones here, so I don't know how to put them back on, so I'm going to keep them off. We have been talking about the gardening competition, which is available to all Luton residents, I believe. So I have Shana this morning with me that has been talking a bit about this. So Shana, talk to me a bit about the competition. I've mentioned competition quite a few times, so I'm sure people don't even know actually it was a competition. So if you could just elaborate on that.
Yeah, of course. So we have 5 categories in the competition. So we have the best residential front display, which is obviously for residents, for people who live in the community, who maybe have a nice display in their front garden. Maybe they have some really amazing hanging baskets, or like a window basket. If you don't have a front garden and you're in a flat, for example, and you have like a balcony or a small terrace, you're welcome to enter that as well. We're trying to be as inclusive as possible because we know that not everyone has this access to the same spaces. So we've got that. We've got the best looking fruit and veg patch. So this is for those green fingered people who are growing their own produce. And
this could be in, sorry to interrupt you there, like allotments.
Yeah,
and
so
things.
it could be in your allotment, it can be in your back garden. Okay. If you have a patch that you grow in your back garden, there's no restrictions on where it is as long as it's yours, of course. And the largest vegetable. Now I know we're not in root vegetable season, but I know. Come on, we've got people who are growing big kaddu. We've got someone with an extra large plum tomato. So enter your large vegetable. We've also got the best school garden projects. That's for schools to get involved with. We know lots of schools and nurseries around Luton are doing some amazing work with their children out in the outdoors. So we're really encouraging schools to also get involved. And we also have the best community garden project as well. So if you are someone who works in a community garden or on a project to do with gardening, maybe you're working with a group of people, a specific community and engaging them with gardening. Maybe you've set up, a space where the community can grow things together. We're really interested to hear from people out in the community that are working on those projects as well. So there's 5 categories. The deadline is the 31st of July.
Okay.
And you simply just enter on our website, which is www.lutoninbloom.com. And each category prize is £200. The runner-up is £50. So there's a big incentive to get involved. Who doesn't want £200? I know I definitely would like £200. However, I can't enter my own competition.
Yes.
Or that would definitely be a fix. So get involved. You just have to simply fill out the registration form, and then I or my colleagues will contact you to get you to send us over some of your pictures.
Okay. So do you actually physically go around and see anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once the deadline's closed and we've collated everyone's pictures, you don't have to send your pictures right away, by the way. If you just register, and then when you feel like, okay, this is at its best now, you can take your pictures, as long as the pictures are with us before that deadline on the 31st of July.
So it's 31st, because I think the flyer that I have, it says complete registration by 30th of June.
Yeah, so because we've got the new community category, we thought it's only fair if we extend the deadline for all the categories, because it wouldn't be fair to just give an extension for one.
Okay.
So we've got, obviously, we had a new community category come in. It was originally 4 categories. We've now got the 5.
Okay.
So the deadline's been extended for all the categories to the 31st of July.
Okay.
So enter, get your pictures when you feel it's at its best, and then we will, with our judges, shortlist them, and then we'll come out in August to the shortlisted places with the judges so that they
Okay.
can make their overall decision on who wins each category.
Yeah.
So we're really excited. We've had some amazing entries already.
Okay.
But we're really keen to get as many people involved as possible because, you know, I know there's people out there that haven't heard about the project
Yes.
who have got beautiful houses and beautiful, you know, front gardens. And I know the labor of love that's gone into, you know, creating those spaces, no matter how small or how big, you know, the labor of love that goes into making those spaces nice and looking after those plants is it's really huge commitment. So do get involved. www.lutoninbloom.com. There's lots more information on the website about specific things about the category if you're interested on what the kind of expectations are. But really, this is our pilot year. So this is our first year.
Okay.
We're kind of, it's trial and error. We're chucking lots of things at it to see, you know, what does the community want from this project? What does it need? And we only really are going to be able to gauge that if you get involved. So do get involved at lutoninbloom.com.
Yes, lovely. And I think it's fantastic. And when I told my daughter about this, that she said, Mum, what's your show on today? And I said, oh, it's on this. And she goes, why haven't we entered? And I said, okay.
You need to.
So yeah, watch this space, Shana. So yeah, she wants to get involved. So I said to her, yeah, inshallah, we can get involved and do that. And it's quite nice because, as you said, this is not, it's reaching out to everyone. There is no, you have to fit a certain criteria. And I like the fact that you've said front garden space and, you know, those that have limited garden space or any garden at all. So you're looking at balcony displays, because I've actually drove past and seen some really nice balconies where they've actually really taken good care of it. And you know, it's not like it's overgrown flowers and plants, but it's just really nice. Like, I'm really picky, and I think this year it's been really hard for me to find the decent flowers for my gardens because I like my marigolds, and they're the only ones that I know are, I think there's a lot out there, but marigolds, they don't need that much attention and they do grow, but the snails love them. And so I had snail trails everywhere.
Oh no.
And it was just horrible. So this year I vowed to myself that I'm not going to make that same mistake, because I had them, we've made like a little patio area, and I had them in pots all going around the patio. So what I thought would look nice in the morning, coming and seeing shiny trails, it just wasn't, it wasn't what I was looking to be greeted
really
by.
quite hit the mark.
No, it wasn't what I was looking to be greeted by. So I thought, no, I need to. So this year we've actually just got packet seeds, and I just said, yeah, but it's just so right. My children keep coming out every now and then, and they're like, has anything grown? Has anything grown? And we're seeing like little things sprout through now, but it's just so slow.
Yeah.
Whereas when you've actually got a flower that you've put in, you're just watering it and you're seeing it, you know, grow
and look nice. It sort of instantly uplifts the garden, doesn't it? So. Yeah, that's it. It does take a lot of work. I mean, my mum, speaking of marigolds, my mum has been growing marigolds from seeds this year.
Oh, okay.
You know, my granddad sadly passed away a few years ago, and his garden was always full of marigolds. So we kind of tried to harvest the seeds from there. And so now she's growing them in her garden. So it's kind of like it's come from a place that we no longer have access to, that has all these memories, and now they're being grown in my mum's garden. It's really nice, actually. So yeah, marigolds, didn't know that about the snails. I will have to pre-warn her.
Yeah, I know. They just it was not nice. And my neighbor, because like he looked over the fence and he goes, oh yeah, that's what they love. So just be warned by that. And I thought, oh gosh, I wish I'd known before. So
you'd have to put them in a hanging basket next time. Yeah, snails can't get to them.
and I've been told actually eggshells, because there's a few tips of things that you can put out on your compost to make sure that things don't attract them. So eggshells is meant to be one of the best ones. So if you've got eggshells floating around, you can just dump them on the compost, and they decompose with it. So it's not like you've got to, you know, scoop them up afterwards. They just will decompose with the plant. So they're meant to keep them off.
I mean, there's so many kind of natural remedies to certain things. It's really interesting. We ran a workshop, our first workshop yesterday, on how to grow your own chilies. And I think people were really surprised about the kinds of things you can use for fertilizer, because obviously not everybody wants to use chemicals and what they're growing. And I was talking about, you know, using coffee grounds or rice water, wood ash. And everyone's looking at me in amazement, like I can use what I've got in my kitchen. It doesn't have to cost the earth. But obviously there are things that are better than others. And obviously in terms of like growing produce, of course the chemical fertilizers are going to trump anything natural, because that's what they're designed to do. But obviously if you are committed to growing organic, which I know lots of people really want to do now, not using pesticides, not using chemical fertilizers and things, there's so much available naturally that you can use. But it was good actually, because someone highlighted obviously tea bags, coffee grounds, some of them when they're grown obviously use chemical fertilizers. So if you are listening and you're thinking, oh, actually I'm going to do that because I don't want to have to use chemicals in my garden, just make sure your tea bags are organic. That was a top tip from yesterday, because obviously wherever your tea is grown, they're likely to have used those fertilizers, and then you're putting that into your own soil. So, it's always good to do a bit of research, I think. And if you are, like lots of people, committed to kind of the more going back to nature, the natural things, then it's surprising how much of what we eat has still got chemicals in it, even when you don't realize.
It's quite scary. I
Yeah,
know.
it is. Yeah.
And so you've mentioned these workshops that are being run. So if I can get you just to explain the thinking behind the workshops and how they run. So, how people can, because, if you're someone like myself that likes to think she's green fingered, but actually doesn't really know what she's doing, and I wanted to come along, how walk me through it. What would I need to do?
So we've got a series of workshops planned for over the summer period. So like I mentioned, we've had the How to Grow Your Own Chilies workshop. Our next workshop is at Stockwood Discovery Centre on Sunday 25th of June from 2 till 4. And that workshop is how to grow a sensory garden. So with each workshop, we're trying to think about the needs of specific areas of the community. So obviously the chilies, that was honestly the Kickstarter, a bit of fun, turn the heat up a little. But now we're trying to think more deeply about, okay, what do our communities need? So we've got an A to Z of gardening planned, which is kind of like for people like yourself who like being in the garden, like doing things in the garden, but maybe just need to pick up a few of the, what do I do with this? And how do I know when to plant that? And those kinds of questions. So that will be planned in July. But for the Stockwood Discovery Centre one and the sensory garden, we were really thinking about those members of our community that have special educational needs, those who have dementia, and the families that are supporting those individuals. So there's been great studies done on the effects of being in sensory gardens for dementia patients, because obviously all those senses, your colour, sense, touch, they link back to memory. So actually being in gardens that are curated and created to kind of stimulate the senses. So you mentioned lavender earlier, obviously plants with certain smells, very strong smells, plants with certain textures, plants with certain colours. So I don't know if everyone knows pansies, they're kind of black and multicolored, so there's like quite a contrast between colors. All those kinds of things can be really beneficial for those suffering from dementia, because they can stimulate their memory. But also I think for most people, unless they really don't like the garden, being out in the outdoors, being in spaces like that can create a real sense of calm. And when patients are suffering from dementia, there's a lot of confusion. It can be very unsettling for people. So we are going to take everyone around the great sensory garden that they have at Stockwood Discovery Centre. It will give people the opportunity to bring people along, so whether it's their children, whether it is their parents or their relatives, and just experience what being in that outdoor garden is as a group, meet other people who are in similar situations, supporting people who are having needing a great deal of care. So we're trying to create to be kind of a social space for people, but also kind of, this is what a sensory garden is, because I think for different people that means different things. So actually this is what we mean by a sensory garden. And these are some of the ways that you can start to create your own spaces, thinking about texture, thinking about scent, thinking about all of these things. So there will be kind of a practical element of actually having a walk around and experiencing that garden, but also kind of, we'll be giving people the information they need to start kind of curating their own things, and we'll give you some of the utensils you need to start growing your own things as well. So it's going to be a really good day. One of the main reasons for me personally that I wanted to do this workshop is obviously I mentioned earlier, my eldest daughter, she's autistic. So she has some sensory needs, not as much as some children, but I found that lots of the spaces that stimulate the senses are indoors. So you've got, lava lamps, bubble lamps, lighting effects, all wonderful spaces and very, very much needed, because with the British weather, we can't always be outdoors, unfortunately. But actually, how do we take our children into outdoor spaces that are inclusive of them, that aren't loud, that aren't going to overstimulate them or unsettle them, but actually are created for them? This is your space. And how do we create that in the environments that we have at home? I'm a strong believer that, if we create spaces for our children where they feel that that's their space, that they have some governance over their home, then they're safe, they're at home, their friends can come over. It's a space that they feel is theirs. We're much likely to be able to protect them from whatever is going on outdoors. And it's only when those children don't feel like they have agency over some areas of their home, and I'm saying within reason, right, because ultimately there has to be some governance. We have to have leadership. I'm not saying that children should have leadership responsibilities in the home necessarily, but to actually have some agency over the home and it feeling inclusive of them is so important, and regardless of their needs, actually. But I think particularly in a world that doesn't necessarily feel inclusive most of the time to children with additional needs, having that garden space that's theirs, where they can go and sit on their comfy chair in their space, is so, so important. And obviously there's children with varying needs. There's children that they can't go out, they can't do things because of disability perhaps, or because just of accessibility and not having care, not being able to do things, particularly if you've got lots of children. It's not always possible to take all of them out and your child who's got an additional need. So you're stuck at home. And it's really isolating for people. So if we can actually create these little sanctuaries for ourselves and for our children, I think it's really, really beneficial. And that's essentially why we wanted to do the workshop, because there's so many people stuck in these kind of pockets, very isolated, feeling like they don't have a lot of support. And I think it's a case of us saying, we support you. This is the Luton in Bloom community. We support you. You're a part of our family now. And these are the spaces that we want to help you create for yourself and, for the wider community. So it's a really, really important one for me. And I'm really excited about it, because obviously we've got lovely weather at the moment. I'm hoping that continues, but also just to be able to meet all of these wonderful families and just take a walk around and to meet each other, I think will be really, really nice. So,
and I think it's really nice, Shana, that you're coming with that stance, because you're coming from that background, so you can really empathise with these parents, or people of the community that come along. Don't necessarily have to be parents; they could be looking after other, people. They could be taking care of their own parents that have got dementia. But coming from that background where you can really connect with them on that level, I think it's really, I can see in your eyes the passion behind this, and I can see how excited you are about this. So it does sound like a good game. And the thing that you mentioned earlier about having giving children that leadership and that space in their own homes, I think that's fantastic, because it gives them a sense of ownership, especially if coming along to this workshop, you can see some of the ideas and see what's on display and say, right, okay, I can actually mimic this in my own home and make this in my own space for my child, and see what your child actually likes. Because often you might just go with it and say, actually, I think my child's going to like this, and create this thing at home, and they don't.
What is this monstrosity?
And they don't like it. So, I guess this sensory garden opportunity is a chance for parents to come along and say, actually, let's find out what it is that our child likes.
I mean, and I would also like to add, obviously, we're talking specifically about families who support obviously children who don't have very much agency at that age, and also obviously patients with dementia who maybe don't have capacity to make decisions for themselves anymore. But if you are a person, an adult with additional needs, with sensory needs, come along, come and meet us. It's not just for those, for those with children. It's for those adults that maybe I have some sensory needs and I would like to create a space for myself. Come along. It's not just for children and for the elderly who maybe don't have capacity.
So, I mean, this is just a one-day event.
So it's from 2 to 4. If you are interested in coming, you just need to register your interest. Obviously, Stockwood Discovery Centre is a free space, but it's just so we can account for numbers. Obviously, there's some materials that we're going to give you, so we'll need to obviously make sure we have enough for everybody. But also, if in the hopefully unlikely event that the weather's terrible, we will be in an indoor space for some of the workshop at least. So it would be really great to have obviously a good idea of numbers. So you would register for that. So it's sensoryluton.eventbrite.com, and Eventbrite is event BRITE, not bright as in the sun is bright. So sensoryluton.eventbrite.com.
Yep, the teacher in you came out there. I could see it there. The teacher in you make what they called homophones, isn't it? Where they sound the same but spelled totally different.
But this is the thing, isn't it? It's very difficult when you're live on air and you're talking. And I've had a few people. I've tried to register, but it's not going. The link's not working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how have you spent bright?
Yeah.
Because obviously when you're listening, you just automatically would spell the most common way of spelling that, and the one that would make the most sense. Because we're talking about Luton in bloom and lovely weather. But yeah, so the teacher in me does come out occasionally.
Yes, no, that's good. I like to see that one of it. Well, I don't think it's ever left us really, because especially if you've got children, you're working on them then. So your whole teaching. So okay, now going back to the In Bloom competition.
Yes,
you mentioned about people entering the competition, and now is this I had a question from a resident earlier on this week, and I must ask it now. This is just can neighbors get together and work together and say, we would like to showcase ours together?
Yes, so we actually have had an entry so you would enter into the community garden category. So it's not just for people who are running actual community spaces, so whether in a place of worship, etc. If you do want to enter as a road or as a selection, a few houses, then you can do so. You just enter into the community category. But we do have an entry who are close and they've entered together. So if they are interested, definitely enter, and it's going to get a bit competitive and heated.
Yeah, because I was thinking I might partner up with my neighbour because I'm not quite sure I'll be able to, but my daughter would not be impressed with me saying that. But yeah, I'm not sure how great I will be able to do it on my own. But yeah, they have all the skills that we can do. So yeah, that'd be great. So the event is on the 25th of June, and I'm just conscious that we haven't mentioned anything that maybe listeners might want to know a bit more about both of those events that we've mentioned. So the competition, I think the key thing to note there is that it's been extended. So the flyer that I have, which I have been sharing with some of the networks that I'm attached to, it's 31st of July.
So you've got an extra month now. So if you are someone who hasn't done anything to the front of the house and you are particularly interested in, sometimes you just think that motivation.
Yes.
I'm going to do it now. I'm going to enter the competition. Then do obviously register. And then once your creation is ready, send us over your pictures.
And also doing it at that time gives parents a bit of time because the children would have finished school.
Yeah.
So we've got that couple of weeks to, say to them, let's all get involved.
Yeah.
And get the
it would be
kids
nice
involved.
to get the children involved as well.
So I think it's a nice extension there. So Shana, is there anything else that you feel listeners could value from by sharing with them this morning? Anything to do with both events that you really feel that you must share with us all? And any of the details that have been mentioned, listeners, in today's show, I will attach onto the Facebook page. So the flyers and the correct flyer will go out on the Facebook page. So you have all the contact details on there, so you can make sure you're spelling bright correctly.
I mean, the main thing for me is obviously the overall messaging, the overall root of this project, if you like, is that we want communities to come together again. We want to create a better vision of our neighborhoods, and I think that starts with us. And you don't have to be an expert gardener. We are running provisions, we are running the workshops in different areas, so that we can have people come in and learn those skills that they want to learn without having to feel like the only person in the room that doesn't know. Or getting completely confused because you're Googling everything and Google will tell you 5 different things and you're not really sure which one's correct. So there is something for everyone. But at the same time, I also know that gardening isn't for everyone. So do tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell your parents. And I think particularly, I've spoken about this before with some quite passionately, if I do say so myself, is that I've seen directly the impact that retirement, for example, has on our parents and has on our older community here. And getting them involved, giving them some kind of project is so good for them physically, mentally, because you can imagine, especially like our fathers, working hard, bringing in an income, putting food on the table their whole lives, and all of a sudden they just stop.
Yeah.
And it really leaves a void and a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And so actually getting dad out in the garden, getting mum out in the garden, you'd be surprised how much they know that they could teach you. And particularly when we're coming from such rich agricultural background, so South Asian background, if we're from the African continent, no matter what background you come from, the elder generation will know a hell of a lot more about growing things than us. I can guarantee
absolutely,
you.
Yeah.
So getting the whole family involved, that's ultimately the key outcome that we want from this project, is that we want the kids to feel like they're involved. We want our parents to feel like they're involved. We want people talking over the fence to their neighbours, and like you said, asking your neighbours for tips on how to grow things. This is the essence of the project. So even if you don't want to enter the competition, do share it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shana, for that. So I will share those details. I've just got a few events that are running over the next couple of days. We've got the Turk Fest happening at Stockwood Park this weekend on Sunday. I don't actually have the times, but I think it's from 10 in the morning, I believe.
Yeah.
And it is a free event, so you can just turn up and join there. We also have Picnic in the Park, or Walldown Park, on the 21st of June, which is the longest day of the year.
Ooh.
So there'll be lots of sunlight that day. So that's running from 10 till 2. And that's for a free entry, and it's fun for the families for children under the age of 5. So I believe there'll be lots of activities available there. And there'll also be some nurseries that have set up some stalls there, and some storytelling as well with the library, so you can come and meet the emergency services as well. Shana, thank you so much for your time today.
So
I'm
much.
going to have to say goodbye, and we'll meet again.
Inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. Thank you for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum. Jumaa Mubarak.
Hi, my